Hello and welcome to this special edition of MindShareTV, Canada's EdTech and Innovation podcast. I'm your host, Robert Martellacci. Today, it's all about Josh Chernikoff, TV sports broadcaster to EdTech Exec, secrets to success. It's incredible how we have parallel lives that we're going to share a little bit of our segue from sports to EdTech career pathways. Josh, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm almost, did we really have to hit 3, 2, 1 because we were having so much fun backstage, but let's just do it all in front of everybody too, because there's a lot to share.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack. So we're going to be diving into one of the most critical pillars of educational technology in the EdTech space. Your wheelhouse is sales, and more specifically, how to consistently generate high quality leads and really connect with the customer. And it's about people. As much as we're in the EdTech space, it really is about people. And Josh Chernikoff, a true sales strategist who is helping companies build lead generation engines that book between 12 and 20 qualified leads a month, which is super valuable. He's got a 12-week EdSales Elevation Experience. He's also a Milken-Penn GSE Competition Judge and a startup mentor, and also part of the ERDI advisory group that I belong to in the U.S., bringing a wealth of knowledge to the table from across the U.S. and the global landscape. And welcome again, Josh.
Thanks, I just realized that the one that brought maybe the biggest smile to me of what you just read was ERDI. I'm really, really proud and honored to be a part of your group with John Gamba and Jen Ferrari and Sandy Husk, all these people. Like, I am so honored to be, just able to stand side by side, shorter than you, but close to side by side with you.
Kathy Hurley, 50-year plus career in EdTech, recipient of the Can-Am Lifetime Achievement Award. And if you stick around that long, you might earn that too, if coming up to our conference. You got a few years to go yet, my friend. But I was intrigued by your career trajectory. Master's in journalism, Northwestern.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Before that, I got an undergrad degree at American University in Washington, D.C. And I was never the best student. I was never the worst student, but I always found my way through school by just kind of talking and getting to know my teachers, and I always thought they're never going to fail me as long as I know them. We're friends, right? So I went to AU, got through AU, made the best friends anybody could have ever asked for, and then decided I would go on and get my master's in broadcast journalism at Northwestern. And there is where I got my butt kicked, really got my butt kicked, because that school obviously takes their journalism very, very seriously. And I am so proud of having gone to Northwestern and that degree that I have. It was tough and it was worth it. And every day it pays off.
So similar to you, I ended up in sport. I was a sport information director, 8 years, pre-internet, 45 sports teams, pre-computers.
Wow.
And, national championships, provincial championships. But I learned to multitask. Those 7 C's we talk about from C21, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, I did them all. And it really prepared me for my leap into the EdTech world that I'm so passionate about. But I still embrace sport. I am a very active participant. I play hockey 3 times a week. Played against Wayne Gretzky. That was my claim to fame. I know he's following Ovechkin wherever he goes now.
Just say I've heard of that guy, but I think he's about to get left in the dust.
Yeah, and I know you're a fan, and so is my son Michael.
Yeah,
huge fan. We saw him play on his rookie year in Washington, visiting friends back in the day. But that was my trajectory. Talk to me about your journey. It's not about me, as my wife will tell me often. It's not about you. It's about you, Josh, today. And talk to me about your career trajectory. I was just at the Lego First Robotics Championship for the province, and we sponsor a team. And we were talking about career pathways around robotics and career pathways around AI and STEM. And we don't use CTE, and we have a branding problem. We call it skilled trades, which as a parent, parents want their kids to go to university or college. Not everyone thinks trades. I love the term CTE, career tech education, which would incorporate broadcasting that you flowed into. So
that's stronger.
Yeah, it's stronger brand.
Yeah. So I would say I'll do your wonderful wife one better. This whole thing is about the people who are listening. So if anybody can get anything from my story, which, has many twists and turns and ups and downs, that's awesome. After getting my master's in broadcast journalism, and it wasn't easy. I remember, having some amazing professors. One of them, his name was Professor Ngati. And, just learned so much from those professors. And I basically drove from Chicago, Evanston, to Harrisonburg, Virginia, which was my first on-air gig in the Shenandoah Valley, which is where James Madison University is, Bridgewater College is, a bunch of other great schools. And they love their sports, man, in the Shenandoah Valley. Anything from, high school field hockey all the way up to James Madison football and then further up.
How many teams did you have?
Oh, I mean, man, on a Friday night football, are you kidding me? I would drive for 3 hours, and we stretched into West Virginia, and West Virginia football is pretty incredible. And so I would go cover 8-9 games. You'd shoot 2 minutes, and look, man, you would just hope that you got a catch, but sometimes 2 minutes you don't get anything. So you'd have to, ad lib the whole thing and say, wow, Spotswood had a rough game, but they turned it around and they won 48-0. And the only thing I've got is somebody dropping a pass. But you improvise, right?
Right.
We improvise and we adjust. We do that as entrepreneurs. And then I was kind of recruited out of the Shenandoah Valley to go work for my beloved Washington Redskins. And they were called the Redskins at the time.
That's
so I
cool.
feel confident calling them that. It was a dream, and it was an absolute nightmare to work there. That team lost on the field, but they lost prolifically off the field. And I was more obviously a part of the losing off the field because I was part of the staff and not the team per se playing football. And I only could take a couple years of that. And finally decided it was time to leave the Skins. And that's when I started my first business. And it was a tutoring company, not because I had any background in education, but because I had a lot of tutors growing up. That was the start.
Interesting. That's so cool. And so you did sports broadcasting. Paul and Mark Jones. I don't know if those names ring a bell, but they once with ABC and once with the Raptors, and
Mark Jones,
Mark Jones. So they were basketball players at York when I was a student playing hockey.
Oh, wow.
So small world. But Paul ended up with the World Championship trophy when the Raptors won at his house, and he shared it with his dad, who was not well. Wonderful. And it was a really special moment. I golfed with him in an alumni tournament shortly thereafter, where he shared the story. But the learning that we garnered from being involved in sport, the character development and the storytelling, right? Yeah. It's about storytelling, and to meet you for the first time at ERDI in Palm Springs, you struck me as someone who really was passionate, articulate, and in the game. You were, I could tell you were in the game. You were focused, and that's what it requires when you are in the role that you hold, in the role that I hold, in learning technology. And next year is my 25th anniversary of Mindshare Learning.
Amazing!
I know.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
It's crazy, and here are you? What Gen X? Are you a Gen X category?
I was born
I'm a
in
baby.
'79. You tell me.
Yeah, you're probably a Gen X. Yeah, thereabouts. X, Y, Z. Yeah, let's put you in that bucket. You're a young man, and I love the work that you do, and telling stories and inspiring other ed techs to thrive is what we do on a daily basis. And today, we are in uncharted waters, and I talk about it. We just released our Can-Am EdTech report. We are in probably the most disruptive time in modern history, in the modern education era, between, geopolitical situations around the world, and with throwing AI into the equation. Makes it super interesting, and I see it as exciting. Not everyone feels the same about it. The state of well-being is in a crisis post-pandemic, and here we are. And it's people like us and other leaders in the systems. And I just had a wonderful conversation with Michael, Dr. Lubefeld from Illinois area, who has a new book out. And it was the most positive conversation that I've had this week, and so inspiring. And we really need to harness those positive vibes in challenging times. And people need distractions, and sport provides a distraction, right? And so does learning. I mean, learning and what we do every day, and immersive learning and leveraging AI is super critical. We're thrilled to have our national AI use case project with our not-for-profit C21 in partnership with Dell Technologies. We're in our second phase of it, and really bringing the country together to share and learn. And hence, Mindshare is really what we do on a daily basis. And I want to share more about your story now, as you segued into tutoring and then ultimately ed tech and what you do every day. Let's unpack that a little more.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the points that I wanted to hit on that you just said here is, and obviously we can unpack the rest of my story. There's a lot to unpack. As you talked about sport and learning as distractions in a world where I think a lot of folks feel like they don't have a lot of say and or control over what they're doing. And especially a lot of the people that you and I work very closely with, who are educators and product people. Those are a lot of my clients, because they don't naturally have some of the skills that I was born with. And so we get to learn very well with each other and from each other. So I just urge the people who are out there who probably feel like they don't have a lot of control over their funding or maybe their futures, especially as it pertains to education, that maybe this is the time to enjoy a sport or pick up a sport or learn something new. It's not going to change what's going on around you, but it might give you a little bit of break, especially with the noise in your own head, to just enjoy yourself. So I think you're very much right to say, like, let's use these distractions. So I wanted to really jump on that.
Yeah, and well said. And so how did you find your niche in helping ed tech companies master lead generation and sales strategy?
Totally. So started my tutoring company in basically January of 2008. And it always felt like to me that I had to be hustling to get leads, that if I didn't have leads, I really didn't have a business. So I didn't think necessarily about the operations part of it. I kind of let that go. And the leads were coming. And then, man, I was able to get us on NBC4 in Washington, D.C. in May of 2008. And that was really exciting and helpful for the company. And the company just began to grow, especially from that. And we were running a nice boutique tutoring firm in the Washington, D.C. area. Nice place to run a tutoring company. And I happened to get to meet somebody named Mandy Ekman. Mandy, absolute rock star, came in, took over the operations so I could focus on just doing kind of the sales and a lot of different tutoring. I was doing that as well. And then I got into a place where the business was just rolling. So it almost got a little bit boring in a nice way. And I had a parent come up to me and say, would you be interested in running a homework club at a school, in an elementary school? And I said, absolutely. You know, I would have done it for free. And this mom said to me, well, we'll get you the rooms, we'll get you the money, we'll get you the flyers, we'll get you the kids. And I'm thinking, wow, this is everything I should be doing as a for-profit education company, but thank you. And we ran an amazing program, and the PTA was happy that brought us in, and the parents were happy, and the kids were happy, my tutors happy, and I was making money. So I finally talked to the mom and I said, well, why'd you do all that? She said, well, this is the world of after school enrichment. Generally, it's on the top 1% of PTAs members, and it's usually moms. In the DC area, these moms are running, you know, government agencies or Fortune 5,000 companies. And so they knew what was wrong with these after school programs, but they couldn't necessarily fix them. Granted, again, they're volunteers. So I said, well, what's challenging you? What's keeping you up at night when you're running this program as a volunteer? And they told me all the problems. And I said, well, I think I can fix those problems for you. And the mom said, well, great. You got yourself your first school. And I said, okay. Around that time, Mandy came back to me and said, I'm going to go work for this company, this new company, Uber. And I said, okay, have fun. You know, and she went off to work for them, and I sold the tutoring company because I really wanted to focus on the after school enrichment. I sold it to a Canadian company, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I had one school, then two, then three, then five, and we were doing after school enrichment up and down the East Coast. Again, same thing played out. Lots of leads on repeat, operations, a friggin' mess. So I brought in my operations person. Michael Fay became my COO, who's now one of my best friends. He took over the operations, and all I had to do was grow that thing to 82 schools in 6 states. And then I sold that. And then my wife said, my wife is smart like yours, what are you going to do for work? And I said, I haven't figured that out. She said, get going. And so I thought I would help companies in education generate leads on repeat. I've done it for my own companies. I can do it for theirs. So I reached out to these companies, Robert, and I said, can I help you get more leads on repeat? Can I get you more leads, just good, great leads that are going to help you build your business? And the founder said, absolutely. Let's do it. And I said, great. Let me ask you a few questions. And I asked him questions so that I could make sure that I got them leads that mattered, right? Not just any leads. Is it urban? Are we suburban? What's the farms? Is it public, private, charter? And they couldn't answer those questions.
Wow.
Because I think the mentality, and maybe you would agree with this or not,
in
the education space is we'll take any leads that you give us. Anything works, we'll figure it out. And that's not the way to scale your business in education. So that's when I took a step back. I wrote the EdSales Elevation Experience, which is a 12-week course that teaches companies only in education. I only work with companies in education, how to get leads on repeat. 12 weeks later, you are guaranteed, I guarantee it, that you're going to get leads on repeat. And the reason that I can guarantee it is because I was in the business tutoring where I couldn't guarantee anything. And parents would ask me, but now I can.
Interesting. Fascinating. Well, I will say this, there are a lot of passionate entrepreneurs that make their way into education, that may be engineers, have great skills. They might not have the business acumen, And I think that is where companies tend to spin their wheels.
Exactly.
And on the other side of the equation, if they don't have the pedagogical expertise, which I've seen often in their playbook lacking, then again, they spin their wheels. So those are two critical um, elements that need to be solved. You know, if you don't have a savvy sales exec or marketing exec, you need to fill that you need the bench strength, right?
Yes.
And just as importantly, you need that pedagogical expertise as well. Otherwise, you will not thrive.
And I agree with you. And I always tell people I am not the product person. And I bet you have an amazing idea, an amazing solution.
Right.
But what I like to do is to teach people how to generate their own leads. We talk about the power of one. Work very closely with one stakeholder. It's very tough in the education space because you have so many stakeholders. Let's work with one stakeholder. Let's get your
Right.
credibility built up. I'm not asking you to promote yourself day in and day out, but be confident and be clear with people using things like LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
using places like this platform to show people how you can help them. Have one offer. Have one very clear offer so that people understand how you can help them. And then be willing to test your message, listen to the objections and listen to the rejections. And so I like to teach people, especially founders, how to lead the sales for about 12 to 24 months and then go out and hire that
Right.
rock star salesperson that eats and sleeps and breathes it. But when you hire them after you've got the engine, they can come in and do their thing as opposed to figuring out how to do the sales. You figured it out.
Well said. I see Moozum, a Canadian company.
Yep. Good people.
That's in collaboration with them. Talk to me about the 12-week EdSales Elevation Experience. Could you do it asynchronously? Could I do it self-paced on my own, or do you lead it? What does that look like?
Sounds like you've been sitting in on my team's meetings. We're not async yet, but I think we're going to get there. Um, right now it's a 12-week program where we do them every other month. We only allow 10 companies, all of them in education, no more than 3 people per company. We just started one 2 weeks ago. We'll start another one in May. And we meet for an hour and a half each week. And it is a wonderful hour and a half, and it flies by.
Fantastic.
And people have about an hour and a half's worth of work to do on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be hearing, I'm not sure how good this microphone is, but you might be hearing some dings on my LinkedIn because that LinkedIn group for cohort number 9, although we've had about 21 of them, this is officially cohort number 9. They're just helping each other. They're working through things together because everybody's been in the same situation that
Cool.
they're in. And so it's really collaborative. So the async part, I like, but they would lose that like true networking
Yeah.
supportive part.
Well, when I did my master's at Pepperdine in EdTech, we had hybrid
Okay.
program where we met and forged our cohort through teamwork and group activities. Tough assignment, Malibu, California, at Pepperdine's main campus.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yes, and then we went off and we met again a couple of other times at FETC, and it was the most powerful learning. When you, to your point, when you have forged that learning community, it is really, really powerful problem solving uh, ecosystem, if you will.
It is. And man, it is tough being an entrepreneur, especially in the education space. So to have other people that are going through this with you and together and can support you and can also help you with connections, it's really, really nice to have those people side by side with you.
Absolutely. And speaking of side by side with you, John Gamba,
There's the
another
man.
colleague of ours who is a legend in the EdTech space.
And the hair
Talk to me,
space.
yeah,
Guy's got
and the hair
amazing
space.
hair.
I'm very envious of both his and yours. You got a fine crop of hair. But talk to me about the importance of storytelling.
Yeah. I don't know if I can even give it its due, but I'll do my best in that. I think that there is a sea of sameness in the education space. I mean, how many reading platforms can you rattle off, or math platforms, or STEM platforms, or PD platforms? And so the ability of a founder to tell their story, the ability of a founder to explain to a potential principal or an investor about why they are different and the transformation that will occur at a school or in a community or at a university when their platform comes in. And then to really tell stories about the success of the people who have been a part of your program. Robert, I don't know if you know, there's a book called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. I love this book, and I reread it all the time. And I'm reading a chapter right now about how people don't buy from us. People buy from the people who have bought from us. And so it's really important to be able to tell the stories of the people who have been successful, which truly, I know you're a good person. I always want to be a good person, really make our hearts feel warm and bigger. And so I'm in the process right now, every day, of trying to highlight one of my clients, you know? And so the storytelling has to be your own founder's story. The storytelling has to be about the transformation that occurs. And the storytelling also has to be about the people who have been through your program and the successes that they have had. Those are important stories.
Well, I'm on Audible and I'm getting the book as we speak. So
it's an amazing book, man.
Well, the other one I would recommend is Dale Carnegie's book.
Okay. Which one is that?
It's his book on it's a sales handbook, and it is brilliant. It's probably 50 years old, but very relevant.
Of course. Okay. Well, you grab yours, I'll grab mine.
Yeah, it's all about relationships, right?
Okay. Is it How to Win and Influence People?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. I will check that out.
Someone talked about it not long ago, and I said, you know what? How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yep.
And it's still incredibly relevant today.
Well, let's do this. I'll see you in July in Baltimore at ERDI. So we certainly have enough time. You read Daniel Priestley, I'll read Dale Carnegie, and we'll talk about it there.
So we're going to have a book club?
We have a book club. John wants to start a book club. John Gamble wants to start a book club too. So
Are you serious?
We talked about it on our show a couple of weeks ago. So we've got 3 members.
Why don't we start a book club and we can have a show? Well, that's a show.
Done. Yeah.
The EdTech Book Club, Leaders Book Club.
ETBC, the EdTech Book Club. Done. That's us.
Am I going to get on your show one day, or how does that work?
This is long overdue. And I messaged you and said, hey, I'm going to be at ASU GSV. Let's do it live on the beach. But you're not going to be at ASU GSV this weekend, are you?
I'm not going to be there.
Okay.
I would love to be there, but I can't. So unfortunately, you're going to have to. We can do remote.
We're doing remote.
We can do a remote show, but let's look ahead into the future, and let's talk about some of the comments. Well, let's talk about AI and now influencing how we communicate and operate in sales. What tools or strategies are you seeing as game changers for EdTech sales teams in 2025, leveraging AI?
Yeah. So one of the things that I love about AI is that it has made me a better writer. It does not do the writing for me.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
it has made me a better writer.
And it has allowed me to write more. So one of the things that I've been doing recently is through my coaching whether it's a cohort or one-to-one, or when I work with teams, I'm able to give them a lot more feedback and strategies in between the times that we meet, because we have a note taker sitting in with us, and it will help me grab the transcript and write really good recaps. Also, Robert,
and it summarizes for you.
Summarizes for sure. One of the things that people in the education space, I think, are uncomfortable about, the educators or the product people, is that fact of the matter is, man, this is also a numbers game. And so you have to have as many conversations, good conversations, as you can. And it's not about 5,000 conversations, but you probably need to have, closer to the 500, number quality conversations when you're trying to really get the traction that you want. And you need to be able to listen. And not only do you need to listen in the moment, but you need to be able to re-listen. And so I love having a note taker there. And that note taker allows me to listen to the conversation again, have conversations with AI and say, what did I hear? How can I help this person? And then it also gives me the benefit of being able to write really crisp follow-up notes. Here's what I heard. Here's what I think we can do together. And I'm being honest with everybody. I use AI to help me, but it doesn't sound like AI wrote those emails or plans. And so I think AI can help you a lot in terms of your sales, being a better listener, and then getting out there and making sure that you let people know you heard what they said.
Well said. One of the things that I'm often referred to as the connector. How important is it for EdTech leaders to be out there networking? That's a gift that I've nurtured over time. When you were wearing your sport administrator hat, SID hat, we're at hundreds of games, meeting parents, professors, students, athletes. You really end up refining your skills, or you don't survive.
Right.
Is that something that, is it nature versus nurture? Is that something that you provide coaching on? Because it's incredibly important to be able to be out there and craft your 30-second, 2-minute, 1-minute, 3-minute pitch.
It's so important. And one of the best places to do it is LinkedIn. I think of LinkedIn in two different places, two different ways. One, LinkedIn is like a gym. Okay. When your profile is solid, when you have a good banner that's professional, when you got that professional picture, when you have a headline, your headline isn't dad, dreamer, business owner, CEO. It's I help who, using what method, get which results. When your about section shows people as a sales funnel how you can help them, you're in a nice position to get out there in the LinkedIn world. And LinkedIn is like a gym. So some days, I have LinkedIn in my calendar every single day. I call it LinkedIn Learning. Swear to God.
Wow.
Some days I go into
they have a learning component to it as well.
Totally. I mean, in the sense of learning, some days I just go in to learn and I will just comment on other people's posts. Mm-hmm. Some days I will go in there and I will post. But you're constantly going in there and working on your messaging. You're working on your confidence because, shoot, John Gamba wrote that. Do I have, okay, I'm going to hop in, or Dr. Michael Golden, I'm going to hop into that conversation. I don't know. And that's where it's also like a conference, where LinkedIn is a big conference and all these conversations are going on, and you can either join them and say something, or you can stay on the outside as well, or you can write your own post and start your own little breakout room and see who joins. So credibility is a huge thing, especially in the education space. Nothing against anybody who sells oil changes, but we're not selling oil changes here. We're selling education, and people need to know who you are. They need to know what you stand for. They need to know who you associate with. And
Well
that can
said.
be done, yes, traveling to this conference or that conference, but it can be done on a day in, day out basis on LinkedIn.
Well said. And we are currently streaming live on LinkedIn. So be sure to chime in and share your thoughts with Josh and I about how you leverage LinkedIn effectively. And yeah, we'd love to hear your comments.
Cool.
Well, it's Friday afternoon, end of the day. I offer to have you join me for a beer at Turtle Jack's and some wings afterwards. But before we wrap up, I want to get to a couple more questions. You're a judge for the Milken-Penn GSE competition and a mentor with Startup. What trends and innovation excite you most in the startup space right now? And, starting up a business today takes a lot of courage, and it requires courageous leadership to be an EdTech leader today.
Yes, it does. Not only does it take courage to start, it also takes courage to enter the Milken competition. It takes courage, and you're going to be vulnerable. And I think that takes courage. One of the things that I teach first and foremost in the EdSales Elevation Experience is to embrace the rejection and the objection. You gotta want it. And you gotta know that it's not personal, because you are separate from your business. You gotta want it because it will improve your business. Okay? And so in terms of what excites me in education, honestly, man, I'm in awe of so many different types of companies that I see. That being said, of course, I have an affinity for tutoring companies. I started one and sold it. I have an affinity for anything that's improving out of school time, after school enrichment. I started a company and sold that. And then really it's just like any other company, because I'm just amazed at the people I get to work with day in and day out, and helping them to figure out how to bring their smart ideas to the right people who will embrace it. There's something that I always talk about, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. We don't want to sell to everybody. Okay? So I always talk to people about, this is going to sound weird, window washing. Because somebody asked me this question once. Imagine you are a window washer in downtown Toronto, and you walk up to two buildings, and one of them is dirty and one of them is clean. In my opinion, as a window washer, you want to work with the people that have clean windows, because those people value you. Those people love the smell of a clean window and seeing out. And that's one of the first things I work with our companies on. And that's a real aha moment, And so when I get to work with these companies, whether they're ed tech or tutoring or enrichment or anywhere in between, as long as I can get those aha moments with them and for them, I'm pretty excitable.
That is a brilliant analogy. And I'll tell you, we have co-op students that work in our Mindshare workspace every day. So we have a co-working innovation center in a shopping mall in Toronto. And we're 4.9 out of 5 on Google. And there's a reason for that, because I am very much a stickler for attention to detail. And I remind everyone that joins us that there's a reason why we're 4.9, because when you walk around, you check the floors, you check the tables, you check the desks, you check everything and make sure that we are clean and tidy, and we have our snacks for our members. We want them to be as comfortable and happy as possible. So it's very relatable to me. And if you come by, I'm sure you'll see squeaky clean windows as well at the Mindshare workspace.
And you will attract other people into your life who believe in squeaky clean windows and what that means for you and for your business.
Yeah. Finally, Josh, what's one piece of timeless advice that you give to founders or sales leaders trying to break in to the crowded ed tech space?
Hmm. Can I cuss?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Fear is a fucking liar. And the reason I say that is because whether the space is crowded, whether you're new to education, if you are fearless and you are ready to fail, which is your first attempt in really trying to learn, you're going to be just fine. And if you listen to people, it will help you to build a business that they want, not necessarily that you think it should be. So don't let fear creep in. Easier said than done. My fear will creep in tomorrow when I get to ASU GSB in San Diego and I'm alone at the AI show, but I'm going to get over it. And so just don't let fear get in the way of your brilliant idea and your ability to bring it, because there are kids out there, there are students out there who will benefit, and that should keep you going all the time. And that great people like Robert, hopefully good people like myself, the great John Gamba, are here to support you. We got you.
With
And our
that,
book club.
and the emerging book club. Josh Chernikoff, thank you for sharing your valuable insights and journey into EdTech and strategies with our MindShareTV audience. It's clear that the right systems and the mindset EdTech founders can transform their sales process and make a greater impact in education. To our viewers and listeners, if you're ready to elevate your EdTech sales game, be sure to connect with Josh and learn more about his EdSales Elevation Experience. And your website is
joshchernikoff.com. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. That is where I'm most up to date. I'm hanging out there all the time. And Robert, I have to tell you, I was so looking forward to this. That's why I wanted to wear my Canadian red glasses here. I'm all for you. I'm all for Canada. I'm all for doing whatever we can to help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And go Ovechkin and breaking Gretzky's record this in the next few days. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.